Hello turtles! Today on Outside Game Dev, we're going to be taking a hike, trying to catch the sunset, and talking about hiring contractors to help you on your indie game. What could possibly be the advantages of hiring out some extra help? You're not going to be able to do everything on your own. Technically speaking, you can do everything on your own if you really are dedicated and you try, and that is your objective. But if you're trying to make some money at this, it's a lot easier if you hire out some help. And the reason being is other people have different skills. Other people have practiced other areas of game development like art, or maybe marketing, or design, whatever it might be. 3 miles up if you're not a programmer, just started. Right? Some of the advantages is hiring that expertise so people know what they're doing, and it can save you time so you can focus on other things. But it can also technically be cheaper than doing it yourself. How is it saving you money, you might ask, when you're actually spending the money? Let's look at art, for example. When it comes to something like a player character that is really important for your games, where the quality really matters, yes, I could sit there and spend a solid week or 2 weeks really iterating on that player character and getting it about where I want. Or I could hire the task out, spend a little bit of money, get exactly what I want. The 2 weeks that I would have spent on my own doing it, right? That costs money too. It's not quite as visible because it's coming out of your cost of living, but time has a very real cost in your indie adventure when you're doing this as a business. We're gonna have to do this while walking because there's no way I'm gonna get the sunset if I stop and talk. So it's gonna be a constant walk and talk this particular video, because the sun sets very shortly and it's a long hike. I'm already in the shade. This is not good. We barely started. If you've decided that you are gonna hire out some extra help, what can you hire out and who to? Who can you hire? And the answer is basically anyone, and for anything that you want. It could be harder or easier to find some particular positions, but of course you got the basic stuff. If you need something to be coded, you hire a programmer. If you need some art done, you can hire an artist, and even those fields can be broken down quite a bit. But there are also less obvious roles as well, like kind of directors for a day. So if you have a particular art direction and maybe you're mediocrely skilled in art like I am, you could hire somebody that is an artist and say, hey, these are the things that I'm actually good at, and this is the style that I'm trying to aim for. How can I take what I have and what I'm capable of and make it even better? And hire them for a day or a couple days, and they come on in and look at what you've got, give you some advice, help keep your budget small while still getting the best bang for your buck. You can also hire people to write your email list, right? Like if you have an email list, you could do community management, hire that task out, give somebody like a few hours a week. You might be asking, what's the risk of the person either ghosting you or just not doing a good job? To some degree, that comes down on you still, because you need to do your own research. You need to find people that are reputable, and you need to find people that can do the job. It might be hard to find somebody to do a job when you don't know how to do the particular thing you're asking. Like if you're asking someone to do art and they say they can, you're kind of trusting them. But the way I've been doing it is you ask for portfolio stuff, right? You check what they can do. And sometimes, even if you don't know the specifics of how they are approaching something, you can still ask, how did you do this? Or how did you make that look so good? Or like, what would be your approach to solving some problem? Just by communicating your needs and how they would tackle those will give you an idea if you can trust them. It'll send some red flags off in your gut, and if you feel those, listen to them. If someone's rushing you to get started on the project, like, hey, I'm ready right now, and they're trying to push you to make the decision to go with them, that's kind of another red flag, you know? Another way to mitigate this risk is by offering more money. Effectively, it's a you get what you pay for. So if somebody was approaching you for a job and they're like, I'll do it for 50 bucks, and most other people that approached the job were like, I'll do it for 100. Generally speaking, the $50 person, they're usually cheaper for a reason. Sometimes that reason might not matter to you. Sometimes that might just be that they're still learning, but their skills are still good enough for what you need. And maybe that risk is worthwhile. That brings me to another point. How about paying people before they get started? Or do you only pay once they've fully delivered? In most of my experiences, when somebody has asked for money ahead of time, I've always talked them to 50 up front and the rest on delivery as the maximum. That's the most I'll ever do. In my experience, most people that have asked me to pay up front has actually bailed on me. You've got to understand that it does go the other way too. They're dealing with the same problem. There are plenty of people that would be paying for work that don't actually pay. They just get the delivery and then never pay. And that's why contractors will sometimes ask for money up front. So not everyone that's asking for money up front is going to bail on you, but that's where communication comes in. Trust your instincts. If somebody you trust is recommending another person to help you out, chances are that other person's not going to bail on you because you have kind of a link with them, right? Okay, so now you've decided that you're going to hire out for a specific job. You found a person to fill that role, and you're wondering, what exactly do you discuss before the work begins? As I mentioned earlier, you know, check their portfolio, ask them some questions, do your research, make sure you're gonna lower your risk, know what you're getting into beforehand, and discuss the payment. Tell them what your budget is, be upfront with them. Try not to lowball people. There's a thing of people working cheaper because they're helping indie developers out. Sometimes they don't, and sometimes they do. Ask them. Don't feel like you should be entitled to a lower price, but if they do, great. Don't accept them doing work for free. Always pay people, I say, at least minimum wage. Understand that just because you guys agreed on a certain price doesn't strictly mean that's what the price will be at the end of the job. It's a ballpark. They're usually giving you an estimate for the project, and sometimes it's going to be a little bit more, sometimes it's going to be a little bit less. Usually if it's less, I wind up paying them what we agreed upon. It's actually pretty important to talk also, how are you going to get the money to them? Some people don't accept PayPal, and some people don't want to give you their bank information to wire them directly. You do have to come to an agreement on how you're going to transfer the money. I would even say come up with a contract. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to give out legal advice, but it is best to ensure everybody's on the same page. You want to protect yourself by making sure that once they do the work, you're going to have ownership of that work. And finally, the last thing you need to do, basically as the work is about to start, is come up with the work order. I usually include all the information that we've talked about before, and this is actually usually part of my contract for me. It's the statement of work. Let's say I was hiring somebody to make a couple vehicles for Accelerate, because I've done this a couple times. What I usually do is define the fact that I want the vehicles to come in Blender, and I want it to be using a particular texture palette. So I'll provide them that texture palette, even the base vehicle file that contains my prototype, and tell them to work within certain sizes and all this other stuff, right? I'd list out all the vehicles that I wanted them to do. It's not their job to brainstorm what it is, but I also kind of left choice, right? I brainstormed a bunch of vehicles that I'm okay with, and I let them choose from that list which ones they want to work on. That gives them a little bit more freedom. Another great thing to add to your work order that might be overlooked sometimes is, who's your target audience? If you can define who your target audience is, it's possible that the person doing work for you can make choices that will help you hit who that audience is. Okay, we got about a half mile remaining. I'm guessing we have about 45 minutes before it goes down at this point, so we're doing pretty good. Once the contractor delivers the work that you had them do, and you're satisfied with it, and really, even if you're not satisfied with it, as long as they've made an honest attempt, promptly pay the final payment. Do your best to drop what you're doing and get the money. The faster you can pay somebody, the chances are that you keep that relationship going, right? You can use them again in the future, and it's a sign of respect. So pay them promptly, and also pay them in the way that you told them you would. And try not to bicker too much about the price they're asking. Like I said before, the first price that you go into is going to be a little bit of an estimate. They don't know the whole project. Maybe something big happened. They should have been communicating that along the way if they ran into something bigger than they were expecting. But don't try to lowball them when they're asking for a bit more. If they're asking for ballparks more, like they're in a whole different ballpark, then you might need to come to an agreement, and at that point, you know, deal with what it is. But that goes back to your risk assessment and trying to work with people you can trust. If they did a good job, if you're actually pretty satisfied with what you got, try giving them a bonus if you can. Squeeze them an extra 25 bucks or even 10 bucks if the contract is like 50. You could call that a tip if you want. I look at it as, I was happy with your work. You did a good job. Whether things went good or bad, take some time to reflect. What could you do better to mitigate the risk in the future, right? What could you have communicated that could have changed the results? Sometimes the contractor just isn't good at communicating back with you. But if you haven't heard from them in a while and you're constantly waiting for them to respond, maybe it would have been worthwhile to be like, hey, is everything all right? Do you need some more time? Did an emergency pop up? And accept those. Be kind to people that are working for you. Well, we just caught the sunset over Willoughby Lake. You can check this little mountain over there. That's where we were last time. If you enjoyed this discussion about hiring other contractors and basically you being the boss, you should check out the last video where we talked about the advantages and disadvantages of being your own boss, like being able to take the day off and a bunch more. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and as always, turtles, until later, have a good one. Enjoy.